The School of Communication and Media recently hosted two prominent political journalists, Peter Baker, chief White House correspondent for the New York Times, and Susan Glasser, staff writer at The New Yorker. The husband and wife team discussed their new book and the upcoming election in a virtual event with moderator Keith Strudler, the director of the School of Communication and Media.
As chroniclers of this presidency, we're in a unique moment where you write stuff down and then you can't even believe it when you read it back.
With the election already underway through mail-in voting, polls show most Americans have made up their minds.
I think it's hard to measure by historical standards is exactly doing this in the middle of a pandemic. And if you have people voting in unconventional ways and suddenly have the rules changing and flux in all these different states about whose ballot gets counted, you count it, whether it has a postmark on this date or that date, those are so hard to judge at this point. And if we have a result that looks something like this direction on election night, and then it changes over the days and weeks to come as the counting continues, that could throw uncertainty and suspicion into something that might not be justified, but would be troubling, I think, for the credibility of our democracy.
After 4 years of Donald Trump, basically no one in America in their right mind is undecided on this guy. They either are in favor of him, which is a small and, deeply committed minority, or they're not just against him, but, fervently so and highly unlikely to change their minds.
Trump suggested that he may lose.
I'm going to say, I lost to the worst candidate in the history of politics. I'm not going to feel so good. Maybe I'll have to leave the country. I don't know.
So you can't go into an election saying, yeah, I think I'm going to lose. But he actually has kind of hinted at that in some of these rallies. When he wasn't trying to dispute a story of ours, he actually kind of said, yeah, I could lose this thing and that would be terrible. And if you don't come to vote for me, I'm never coming back to your state.
Baker and Glasser promoted their new book, The Man Who Ran Washington.
One of the things Peter and I sort of grappled with in doing this biography is how much is Baker's extraordinary success a product of the man, or is it a marriage of the man and the moment?
Glasser's father, Stephen Glasser, is on the advisory board for the School of Communication and Media. The Montclair resident helped arrange the interview for his daughter and son-in-law.
They have a soft spot in their heart for Montclair. Susan is a native, and she knows that her dad's been involved with the school in several aspects, currently with the School of Communications and Media.
Dr. Strudler says with large events prohibited, this virtual conversation was a way to bring the school and the community together.
On the one hand, it gives us the opportunity to potentially recruit some people that maybe we couldn't have gotten otherwise. This has been a White House unlike any in our lifetimes or our memory, or perhaps even in the history of this country. And I think it's unique when you have two people who are literally kind of inside the White House.
Students were able to take away a political lesson.
Part of what we tried to do, and I hope we accomplished, was in kind of going over the book and James Baker and the history and kind of evolution of center power in the Republican Party, we were also kind of trying to help students to realize that this moment in history is pretty singular and it's pretty crazy. There is a cycle in American politics.
This election is not finalized, so there's still room for change.
If you're a Trump fan, there's still reason to hope. If you're a Biden fan, then there's still reason to worry.
2020 has been an unpredictable year, one that is still playing out. For the students and the greater Montclair community, this was an opportunity to hear from two journalists with front row seats. From Montclair News Lab, I'm Zach Taglioli.